And the first word in this comic is the word beauty.
I enjoy this opening little monologue because, one, it's coming from the Joker, so I know it's full of shit.
Coming from a bad place.
It's so full of shit.
Yeah.
So it's... When you read this...
And the definition of an untrustworthy narrator. Yeah.
It being so beautifully poetic is, to me, comes off as condescending. You know, it's just like a big joke to him. Like the way he's given this, very poetic way of speaking about how he views the world and his job in the world.
Yeah. And he's also maybe giving the Doctor a little what he wants to hear,
Yeah.
Like, pandering to his audience.
Same thing he would do with Harley back in the day.
Yeah.
But, he says... Beauty, that is all I have ever wanted. You want to understand me? You really want to understand? Then understand that all I have ever wanted is to create things that are beautiful.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Dissection, where we are a comic book club that examines works through an intersectional leftist lens. With me, as always, is Gorship. How are you this fine morning, Gorship?
Good to be back in the saddle, as always, reading another fancy comic.
Yes, and I, the voice with the moist, Reno V. Maybe the voice that brings the moist. I'm gonna start using that in bars. We'll see how it goes.
Can we get references from some people to make sure that checks?
That did. I make every person I sleep with fill out a form.
NDAs.
Were you satisfied? 1 to 5, and then you circle the number. What could we have done to improve your experience? Please give notes.
Everything but breakfast in bed and a
so that we can bring you better service next time. Yes, and Gorship, you happen to have a very special attachment to the subject of today's comic. We are discussing Joker, Killer Smile, and I feel like before we go any deeper into this, I would like you, Gorship, to tell me, why Joker? Why is he your guy? Why do you have a tattoo of him on you? Or tattoos even, maybe.
For better or worse, the mainstream cultural shift of Joker's public image has been hit over the last, I want to say, at least decade. It's like now associated, if you like the Joker, you're like an incel or a terrible person. Let me clarify.
Oh.
I do not condone the domestic violence of the aspect that they've highlighted solely of Joker, because he's done a lot of terrible things. They're only focusing on domestic violence as like the worst thing he's done, not including mass genocide or infanticide or anything like that. No. They're just only focusing culturally on domestic violence. While that is fucking god awful, yes, it's an aspect of his terrible personality.
Yeah.
It's not the only iteration of the Joker, but they only like to focus on that one universal aspect when he's been rewritten and written multiple times. It's more than just an abusive lover. He's also been a possessive lover and a devoted lover. Anyways, the reason why I like the Joker is because it's something that, like most people, like the darker side of humanity, it kind of highlights him as a person. Look, anybody could have one bad day and just snap off the deep end and just go, down the dark rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And he kind of personifies that as, like, madness because it's all the intrusive thoughts winning at once. And, that's an appealing side for some people. Like, you always think about it, but you never act on it. So it's interesting to have a character that always acts on it when, like, you're not in a society where that's acceptable. Like, this is comic books, and so it's nice to read this fantasy character that has been written and rewritten as crazy, genius, mad,
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's...
Look, as a person who... And I've talked to Cecilia about this as well. Like, her favorite relationships are often extremely toxic when you look at them. But the idea is that you can like that in fiction and not want that in real life.
Exactly.
Like, my Riddler's my guy, but if somebody was putting people in death traps that you had to be smart enough to get out of in real life, I would want that person caught. Like, I can enjoy that in fiction and not be something I want to see in my day-to-day in the real world. And I think anyone that has a fandom for the villains or the people who honestly are not people that are healthy to have in your life in the real world understands that. It is only I feel like the people who push back on that and give people grief about fandoms such as the Joker, such as like toxic relationships, stuff like that, they just want to fucking fight. Like, they just want something to bitch about. Like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The internet is a bad place to gauge the temperature of the room. Because the loudest, most annoying people who just want to fuck with people are the people that are raising these objections about, like, oh, if you like the Joker, you're a wife beater or an incel or, well, like, what the fuck ever. Like,
if you want an iteration of the Joker that's recently been written that really highlights that if you still choose Batman over the Joker, you're a terrible person, Batman White Knight.
Yeah.
Where the Joker has gone on the straight and narrow and actually is working
closer to it. He's not, and
he's highlighted.
He's not a good guy.
No.
He's just better than Batman in that story.
He's highlighting the aspect of, like, you guys ever notice how Batman only does crime fighting in poor people neighborhoods?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very strong aspect of the political side of it that shows, like, hey, I'm not in the wrong. I'm always attacking the rich people.
Well, it was kind of
the people who get hurt when I do shit are supposed to be the rich people, the people who are running banks. That's the money I'm stealing from, is the rich people. I'm not going to your rooftops and tearing them up with my Batmobile.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that's blowing it up and beating you up because you're selling drugs to make a living.
Well, it was also kind of neat because in that, Batman was sort of a dupe. Like, he finds out later, he's like, oh, after I drive my fucking Batmobile through the town, like, tearing up the roads, chasing after Killer Moth, the rich people come in and buy up the land and gentrify it because I've destroyed it. You know, chasing Mr. Freeze or whatever. Oh shit, like, Batman, like, he was completely oblivious to
the fact that it took him so many years to figure that out.
You know what? Sometimes you just have to have someone in a purple suit sort of wave it in your face.
Mirror. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's another great thing about the Joker. He is the perfect mirror image. I think it was in Death in the Family when the Joker talked about how, like, all of Batman's villains represent an aspect of him. Like, Riddler represents his intelligence and his analytical side. And, like, Joker represents, like, the chaos that he is trying to hold at bay all the time.
Yeah, if he didn't have Batman, he wouldn't be a Joker.
Like, Harvey Dent, a.k.a. Two-Face, is the law and the times that it fails to punish the wicked the way it's supposed to. And the randomness of chance that created Batman, because had his parents not been killed in that alley, maybe he wouldn't have, like, become who he was. Fucking Oswald Cobblepot, another son of a rich family that went to crime instead of a vigilante. Like, all these characters who are the Batman villains, they resound so well because they do reflect aspects of Batman turned towards a darker purpose,
or like other characters, they're reflections of his failed abilities. Like, like directly corresponding to, like, the reason why, you know, Clayface exists is because of fucking Wayne Chemicals and Bruce's inability to pay attention to running his own company and his own company.
Well, same reason Poison Ivy keeps coming back because, like, Wayne Tech keeps destroying rainforest and she has to come back to Gotham and tear shit up. Yeah, his corporation is too big for him to keep an eye on all of it, and it keeps doing bad things and making villains.
But to say the least, to summarize, I like the Joker because he's an extension of what you couldn't be socially acceptably in society, and it's always I have these intrusive thoughts, but this is what this person would do if those intrusive thoughts was. So it's nice to see a reflection of that kind of character. And I know he's done some deplorable things in the writing, but that's what makes the character so intriguing. I mean, fictitious character doing zany stuff, over the top, you know, like clown themed, which is crazy because I have a phobia of clowns, but I do not recognize, my brain does not recognize Joker as a clown.
Yeah.
It's more of, I see him as like a serial killer slasher villain. You know, like, I don't see a clown. Maybe it's the way he's painted. I don't know. I just have never seen him a clown, even though his moniker is the Clown Prince of Crime.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things where maybe it's also a way of slightly addressing my phobias, is like vicariously living through the thing I hate.
Yeah. Yeah, very possible. Yeah. I think also he's just so... He's become so iconic that to have a comic podcast at some point...
Yeah, you'd figure we'd get here.
It's time to get... Yeah, it's fucking time. And as usual... I don't go for the most obvious. Like, Killing Joke would have been the most obvious, or Death in the Family. Like, there's ways that you could have, that I could have done this that would have been the most expected. But this is Joker Killer Smile, which came out in 2020. It's part of the DC Black Label.
It's a very nice one-shot. Very fun.
Yeah, it was a very unique take, and a very unique way to talk about the Joker and psychiatry and other things like that. Let me give our creators real quick. We got Jeff Lemire, who is the writer, also writes Essex County, and is the guy that wrote Sweet Tooth. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Well known for those things. Andrea Sorrento is the artist, an Italian artist who has drawn things for Old Man Logan, and God of War, amongst other credits.
Cool.
And Jodie Belair, I'm going to mention. Usually I just do the artist, the main artist, and the writer, but I'm going to bring up Jodie Belair because she's the colorist in this.
That is a very undervalued job.
Yes, and I really appreciate the color in this because it's all very lights and pastels, even through the murder, and it really gives you the idea you're seeing everything through Joker's eyes. Because I imagine even as he's murdering people, he's seeing things in a light and pastel and like a clownish hue to everything. Everything's spring color.
There's also several spreads,
Yeah.
like full-page spreads that she does in the colorization that definitely gives me a tone shift that I really enjoy, that it goes from the light pastel, watercolory, like imaginative vibe to, okay, these dark hues, these reds, this whole red filter over an entire panel. We're in like a horror movie setting, a very, psychological thriller kind of vibe.
And a lot of times when it is the darker imaging, it's because we're seeing things through Dr. Ben Ben, who is supposed to be quote unquote the good guy. But when we're seeing things through his eyes, it is the dark and gritty. It's the world as a miserable place. Whereas when we're seeing it through Joker's eyes, it's all happy and go lucky and bright and pastel.
and speaking about the art style of this, there was actually one note that immediately stuck out to me that I wanted to make sure I remembered. On first reading of this, I really enjoy the art style because it kind of reminds me of that 1970s animated Lord of the Rings movie where they had live action characters that they just drew over. It gives me a similar vibe, the way that this is drawn, and it looks like real people, but they've been redrawn over live samples. Like there are times where it looks like it's such a real person that's just been slightly drawn over.
Yeah,
and that's just one thing that stuck out to me.
Oh yeah, I can see that. It's definitely a very realistic art style as far as the characters look. Like you say, like they were just someone just painted over faces of real people. But yeah, Joker Killer Smile is the story of Dr. Ben Arnell and his treatment of the Joker. Just to, since we don't have an IMDb page, that's our summary. His attempt and failure to treat the Joker. It ends up being one of those cases where who's the patient and who's the doctor here, kind of. Yeah, the roles get reversed without Dr. Ben even knowing, recognizing it until it's too late. But we open on a beautiful, beautiful sunny day in book 1. Looks like it's springtime. And the first word in this comic is the word beauty.
I enjoy this opening little monologue because, one, it's coming from the Joker, so I know it's full of shit.
Coming from a bad place.
It's so full of shit.
Yeah.
So it's... When you read this...
And the definition of an untrustworthy narrator. Yeah.
It being so beautifully poetic is, to me, comes off as condescending. It's just like a big joke to him. The way he's given this, very poetic way of speaking about how he views the world and his job in the world.
Yeah. And he's also maybe giving the doctor a little what he wants to hear,
Yeah.
Pandering to his audience.
Same thing he would do with Harley back in the day.
Yeah.
But, he says... Beauty, that is all I have ever wanted. You want to understand me? You really want to understand? Then understand that all I have ever wanted is to create things that are beautiful.
Yes. And we open up on the city skyline and there's just purple and green balloons everywhere. And children and adults together are all like, oh, it's so pretty, kind of reaching out to them. And then you see a white thumb in handcuffs. And they all start popping and... to the surprise of almost no one, Joker gas and a pile of corpses. And he says, I do like to challenge them to see, I aim to give my audience what they need, not what they want. happiness, laughter. Yes, laughter most of all. That is true beauty. Yeah, so the idea is he poisoned this entire town because when you die with a smile on your face, that's just about the best end you can have in a world as sad and horrible as this.
And in his God complex mind, he's doing them a favor. He's doing something beautiful and like selfless for that.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I gave you this gift. Of like a final ha-ha to enjoy, you know.
Do you know how sad and horrible life is? And I gave you laughters and smiles. And I took you away from all this. Off this mortal coil, you're welcome. But some people can just never understand that as simple as it is, some people will always want to ruin what is beautiful. And it's just seeing Joker's talking. Just seeing a Batman punching the shit out of him.
I love how it literally is, the image is in the word punch spelled out.
Yeah.
Like it's just Puncha with an exclamation point, and inside of it you see Batman's fist just knocking teeth out of the Joker's skull.
Yeah. It's a nice way to deliver that.
And it's also
something you've seen a million times, Batman punching Joker.
One of the only times that you're going to see Batman throughout this whole comic.
Until part 3, Batman is a non-entity, really.
Yeah, this whole story is just Joker and Dr. Ben.
Yeah.
And some other minor characters in between.
Yeah.
Like, Batman is a non-factor for the majority of this.
Yeah, and Batman, I'm sorry, now we get our first words from Dr. Ben. I can't tell if you're being sincere. I can't tell if this is just part of the act. And Joker said that's going to be a bit of an issue, isn't it?
And now we see that Joker has been telling this poetic little story with a visual overlay while being locked up in Arkham, you know, his second home.
Another stint in the old Arkham. And we meet our psychiatrist, Dr. Ben Arnell.
Dr. Benji!
Yeah, Benji's trying to get to the bottom of the Joker because, of course, this is a common thing because you often have these psychiatrists who are trying to make their name on Arkham inmates because the Arkham inmates have earned a certain amount of notoriety due to the style in which they crime. And you get a psychiatrist who's like, oh, I'm going to come in and write a dissertation on the Joker, and that's going to get me published in all the papers, and I'm going to be a big wig. And they usually don't make it out and it's kind of surprising they can keep finding people willing to do this.
It's funny because, like, this whole opening interrogation scene, this is what I was talking about, where I was like, it gives a almost realistic sense the way that it's drawn. But
yeah,
when we were discussing off record, I was saying this definitely makes it feel like a true crime TV show. Like, if you've ever seen the Hannibal TV show, where, you know, the therapist is interviewing Hannibal, but also deplorable things are happening simultaneously while he's being interviewed by a psychologist. It's the same vibe. It's a very True Detective, Hannibal, Fringe style vibe of like, all right, this is not your normal superhero comic book writing style. No. This is going to be encapsulated. This is going to be all about the Joker's madness and you know, how someone else who is not Batman handles trying to fucking talk to him.
Yeah, and someone with the idea of... Benji straight up says, I'm going to cure you, which Joker finds quite funny. And he says, this isn't really about me, it's not about Batman, it's not about my victims.
It's all about you.
Yeah, it's about your ego. And
it's not the only time he'll hear that he's ego-driven.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, there's a couple people that'll be like, are you sure this isn't just about what, you know, will make you look good?
Yeah. And you know, it's hard to argue, because if you're trying to cure the Joker, you're stepping into the deep stuff, and you're going to make your name on it. Like, even if that's not your purpose, if you cure the Joker, you immediately become the celebrity, the highest ranking psychiatrist that ever psychiatried. Like, that's the creme de la creme.
And with that in mind, you know, the head of the psychiatry department, Dr. Hutchison, she also asked him straight up when he gets out of interviewing Joker, is this just an ego thing with you, Dr. Arno?
Yeah.
And he's no, of course not.
Yeah, no. If we can cure him, like...
We could cure
anybody, yeah. Like, if you can cure the Joker, who is beyond you? Like, if you've got the Joker cured, Mad Hatter should be no problem. Like, once you've gotten there, it's amazing. Yeah.
And Hutcherson, she says she's heard this all before. She's like, you're not the first dude that's come through that door trying to tell me this.
And she tells him, he's like, well, if you give me enough time, and she's like, you got 2 more weeks. I've seen what he does to people.
And this next little bit, oh man, she's got a dark sense of humor. She says, hey, did you hear what Woodrow said to the guards last night? Ben says, no, what? He didn't say anything. That guy's a fucking vegetable.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Dr. Woodrow is the weird plant dude that that turned poison ivy into poison ivy. So he's literally a plant dude. So it works on a couple of levels.
It's just dark though. Even Ben's like, Jesus, that's bad, man.
Yeah.
But it's the end of a long, hard day, and after our first meeting with Ben and Joker's psychiatry session.
Time to go home.
Yeah, he's heading out of the Gotham City area.
And he lives in the suburbs.
Yeah.
You see he is 15 miles outside of Gotham at least. And he's got a little thing hanging up in his window that says, best dad ever. And he comes home to, like, the prototypical, like, psychiatrist salary, really nice house.
He even has a Rorschach test in the middle of his living room over the mantle.
Yes, which will come into play a little later, too. That Rorschach test. It's funny because it's a little background spot. But then later, it has meaning, which is fun. A little bit of foreshadowing, you can say. Daddy's home. He sure is, and only an hour late. So obviously, somebody's a workaholic.
Passive aggressive, much.
Hey, it's the nicest way I can say. You said you were going to be home an hour ago in front of our child. We'll fight about this later.
Yeah, and so he's catching up with his kid, and his son wants to show him that he's drawn another tank.
Yeah, the kid's got his tanks, and
it's got 3 cannons this time.
It can shoot anything. And yeah, they've got takeout, and so there's a nice scene of them all eating and having a good time.
All meanwhile, Joker is still narrating over how he's only ever wanted to create beautiful
happiness,
things.
Laughter, beauty. Yeah,
that's all he's ever wanted.
But he's hearing those words, but he's looking at his family, and he's like, yeah, you know what? This is happiness.
And so we transition from the inner panels of a nice, happy family dinner with Ben and his wife to all of a sudden it is a kid's children's book.
Yeah.
And the children's book goes as follows. Once upon a very long time ago, there was a happy, happy place in a happy, happy forest. And wouldn't you just know it, this place was even called Happyville. Oh, and Happyville was the happiest place there ever was. And everyone in Happyville knew each other, and they were all the very best of friends. But all that was about to change. You see, on the last Saturday of the very last week in Happyville, a new friend came to town. He called himself Mr. Smiles. And boy, oh boy, was he a character. Mr. Smiles carried a strange thing in his hand, and all the curious critters of Happyville gathered around to see what it was. Mr. Smiles was more than happy to give a demonstration of his amazing contraption. Step right up, he declared, as he pulled the starting cord, and the rumble of the device's small engine, the smell of diesel fumes, filled the spring air. Mr. Smiles is a clown puppet with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, there's some cartoony pictures to go along with this story. And then the second one, you see Mr. Clown holding a very large chainsaw, and all these cute little animal critters gathered around.
You ever see Happy Tree Friends?
This is that, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And the father kind of pauses. He's like, man, this is a weird book. Where'd you get this? And the son, whose name is Simon, says, you gave it to me, Daddy.
Well, he only pauses when he says the next line, and so the blades of teeth of Mr. Smiles' happy machine began to spin and spin. Yeah, no shit, that's fucking weird. You see a cartoon clown chainsawing all these animals' heads off and stuff.
And his dad's like, well, maybe we should read something else. And his son's like, no, you promised you'd read the whole thing. Come on. So the dad has no memory of giving him the book or promising to read the whole thing. And you're like, maybe the son's mistaken. And maybe he's just saying the dad promised because he wants him to read the book. But the dad flips through a couple more pages and is like, no, it's bedtime. Time for bed. Good night, Simon. Love you. Love you too, Daddy. And Simon kind of starts to throw a tantrum, but then his dad's like, don't make an issue out of this. And he's like, okay, Dad.
But this is that first indicator that something is off.
Yeah.
Like, this little lapse of, like, I gave you this book, that's your first indicator that something is a little not right all in this world.
Yeah, the fact that Mr. Smiles is in this house is strange. And he brings it into the bedroom, and I think he's going to talk to his wife about it. But they end up talking about something else because she's worried about him at Arkham, as you would. And he's like, no, I'm not worried. It's not an ego thing. And again, he needs more ego assurance that this isn't just his ego talking, that he actually wants to, save Joker and then ergo save the world.
There's a visual irony in the two panels. She says, and I don't want you bringing any of that work home. Yeah. And you see him putting the book down on the table, which clearly has something to do with, like...
Yeah, as he's saying, I won't. He's setting the book down that you kind of think... Well,
it's perfectly safe at Arkham. The irony that somebody is actually trying to defend Arkham Asylum's safety and people can't break out. Dude, they break out.
She calls him constantly. Out. She's like, and how many times has he escaped from there? And he's like, yes, and every time they make it harder. Eventually, it'll be too hard. He just won't be able to escape out. That's not how
it goes, man. His delusion is already showing just because he wants to insist, no, Arkham is safe. Trust me.
He wants, and he's like, nothing to worry about because in 2 weeks I'm getting taken off the case anyway. I asked for an extension. It was not granted. So honey, you got nothing to worry about. And he does say, you don't think I'm doing this for ego, right? And she's like, no, you're a good man, Ben. Sometimes you just think too much. And the last panel is of her asleep and his eyes wide open as he's lying in bed.
We've all been there.
And then we get a balloon floating into the darkness. It pops into the Rorschach painting downstairs. That's the pop.
And it's a very horror movie vibe, a very insidious vibe of sleepwalking. And
he's hearing scratch noises downstairs. So he looks in on his son, who's sleeping soundly. His wife is sleeping. Everyone's sleeping soundly. And he's backlit. Everything's dark around him, but he's got a purple light on him. So not actually, but the way he's colored.
Yeah.
There's a purple aura
around
him.
Like a highlight that kind of shows him glowing in the dark.
Yeah, and he gets to the basement door and he's like,
hello? Is someone down there?
Yeah, and right when he's reaching for the door, the light flicks on and his wife is there, fully dressed. And she's like, Ben, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just checking something in the office, go back to sleep. And she's like, Ben, it's almost 8. And he's like, no, I just woke up. And so it's now morning, so we don't know. He's lost time. There's a bit of time lost here. He probably got up at 2 or 3 in the morning and lost 4 or 5 hours staring at this green door. Or was he? Or did he actually go in the basement and do some stuff? We do not know.
The irony here is him losing his sense of time, and then the next panel at the very bottom immediately saying, let's go back in time a bit, shall we?
Right.
It's not lost on me that was a direct choice.
The next page is a full-page panel of a subway car that's been submerged, and people...
full of Joker fish.
Yeah, and people inside drowning and beating on the glass, some of them already dead. But again, it's a beautiful pastel.
I think it's the creepiest I've ever seen the Joker fish look.
Oh yeah,
they definitely look way more disturbing than they have in previous iterations.
Yeah, the fish are insane. But I do love the fish. It's very pretty.
And so when they go back in time, Ben clarifies that the Jokerfish incident would have been 8 years ago, according to him. Mm-hmm. Joker gets a good laugh. He's like, hee, yeah, that was a good one. The looks on those people's faces.
Yeah. And he's asking, and he's like, it's kind of performance art to you, isn't it? And Joker's like, yeah, almost. And you're getting closer. And he's asking how he does it.
A magician never reveals his secrets.
And he's like, well, you must have a chemistry background, right? Something like that. He's trying to get to who are you, what's your past, and Joker's like, okay.
Doc, are you trying to do secret origin story time with me? Because I'm really good at this one.
Yeah, we've been down this road a little too much. And so he starts to recite the story
of Mr. Smiles.
Yeah, that Ben stopped reading to his son the night before. And Ben just loses his shit and runs out of the room, and I'm like, Ben, come on, man. You can't be thrown this easy. It's the Joker, dude. And later, his boss gives him the, really? You didn't think he was going to try and get your head? That surprises you? So, yeah, this is kind of our first indication that Ben is not equipped to do this job.
And
like, he's just not ready. He's just
from
not
here
ready.
on out, it starts for me visually. The way that these panels are drawn out, there's something about them.
Mm-hmm.
They're so unusual that I really appreciate them. Like, you know, the scene with the punch spelling out while showing the punch in the face.
Yeah.
And the red lighting of his body while walking in the dark, you know, and the red explosion of the balloon to a roar. I love all these very, like, artistic choices.
The paneling, the color choices, like, it all flows together
So when
so well.
Ben runs out of the room, he has to go to the bathroom, and he washes his face in the sink. And when he looks up, the mirror is cracked and broken, and a cartoon Mr. Smiles is drawn in the mirror, just like that was in the book. He turns around, and he goes to go to the toilet to go throw up, but he notices that this panel is so awesome, this whole page. It's basically a bloody mouth, and there's teeth, and each teeth shows an image of Ben going from the sink.
Moving towards a bathroom stall that's covered in blood.
Exactly, and each little tooth shows that transition of him moving closer and closer and then grabbing the bloody handle. Yeah. He opens it up, and he finds a dead coworker who's been jokerized, and, like, his neck has been slashed.
Yeah, and someone's wrote ha 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 over it.
Or so he thinks.
Yeah. But then a moment later, the guy is standing up. What the hell, man? You can't just open up people's bathroom
I was
stalls.
taking a shit, bro. What?
Lock the stall, buddy. Some of that's on you. But anyway, yeah. And Ben just plops down in the bathroom, and we get this quote from the Happy Time. After Mr. Smiles came to town, Happyville wasn't so happy anymore. In fact, the curious critters who survived Mr. Smiles' arrival could barely remember ever being happy at all. And Dr. Ben is slowly forgetting what it's like to be happy as well.
To finish that one out, I also love that the addition to this story we didn't get before. Then one day, one brave little creature worked up the courage to go to Mr. Smiles' house and knock on the door. When Mr. Smiles answered, the little critter asked him, "Why did you do that, Mr. Smiles? Why did you hurt all of those nice animals?" Mr. Smiles thought about this for a long moment. Then he said, "Well, why don't you come inside, and I'll tell you." The little fellow knew it was a trick. He said, "If I come into your house, you'll just hurt me too." Mr. Smiles said, "You're goddamn right I will. But won't you come in anyway?" The animal paused on the threshold of Mr. Smiles' door, uncertain, and then he took one step forward. Mr. Smiles had been hiding a big old knife behind his back, and he proceeded to stab and stab and stab. As the animal lay there, dying on his floor, Mr. Smiles asked, "You knew that would happen. Why on earth did you come inside?" With his dying breath, the poor little creature responded, "Because I needed to know how it feels."
And thus ends book one.
That is a very interesting place to end on, because visually, as the Joker is finishing off the story of how Mr. Smiles killed the survivors,
he's drawing a big Mr. Smile in his room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we get a closing shot of the Joker in pop art form. Where it's, you know, if you had 3D glasses, you would see a cool little 3D version of the Joker space popping out.
Yeah, he's kind of popping out.
But,
And then we pop into book 2, and I love the opening to this.
so cool.
Arkham's
So cool.
I would so go to a fucking shiny diner. That's Arkham theme. We've got Dr. Ben driving in the night. There are 2 worlds. There's the world that most of us inhabit. That is the world where we live, our day-to-day lives. For the sake of simplicity, let's call this the real world. But there's another world, and this other place is one that only very special people can see. No, that's not right. They don't just see this other world. These special people actually live in it. They fully reside in it. So as we're hearing this, he's driving up to a shiny cafe called Arkham's. And as he opens the door, we get some nice cameos of all of the rest of Batman's rogues gallery. Bane, Riddler, Scarecrow,
Professor Pig, Cobblepot, Mad Hatter.
Yep, Harley Quinn, Croc, Freeze, like Poison Ivy. Like, the gang is all here. Some are customers, some are working at Arkham's, but we're all at the cafe.
And to end that quote you began with, and to the special people, this second world is as real as the one you and I live in. So this goes back into what I was discussing. Like, from here on out, you don't know what's going to be real and what's going to be a question of losing sanity, because it's all starting to kind of mesh together. Like, visually, I think the only thing that gives you a cue that it might not be real is the color tone that they choose to highlight the panel with.
Yeah.
You get this green, dreamlike hue over the diner and everything in it.
And Ben's asking, what is this place? And Harley Quinn, who is our waitress, says, here you go, Puddin'. He goes, oh, thank you, my sweet. And a nice big platter, a covered platter, is set down on the table. And I do believe the good doctor is getting hungry. And Joker takes out the lid, and there is Dr. Ben in clown makeup, but just the head. And Joker says, Benji, my boy, I've been looking forward to this like you would not believe. And he sticks a fork in the brain, which is now resting on top of like an MC Escher cube puzzle.
Yeah, like
that you can see Dr. Ben screaming inside of each of the square. Well, like, not each of the squares, but the squares form the face of him screaming inside.
It's almost
the
like if you
cubes.
pulled apart a Rubik's Cube that had his facial pattern on it.
Yeah.
That's basically the best way I could look at it. But I noticed, yeah, his face was screaming, and that's his brain, the Joker's.
Oh, yeah. And he says, when you, what I mean is, when you go mad, will you even realize it? Joker is asking Dr. Ben. And Dr. Ben screams no and wakes up his wife.
Terrible
Because he's
dream.
actually in
Terrible dream.
Just a dream, though. Why are you stressing, buddy? And he straight up asks her, is this real?
She's like, what?
I would be terrified. I mean, I would write it off as, okay, they were just coming out of sleep. Like, it's fine. But if I was sleeping with a psychiatrist and they woke up and said, is this real? I'd be like, oh, you're going to need some treatment.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think we can keep this going down. I need you to start seeking some treatment of your own. Because you're losing your grip on reality. You have to ask me if this is real?
That's disturbing. I have never in my life asked if this is real, except if I was already dreaming. So he goes downstairs because he says it's time to get up anyway. And his son is playing on his phone a little app called Fun at the Luna Park with Mr. Smiles' interactive tale. So Mr. Smiles has now somehow made it onto an app.
This Mr. Smiles character is just invading every media.
Well, you're kind of wondering if any of that, if Mr. Smiles is even like, if that is a real part of this, or if this is part of Dr. Ben losing his shit. But
then Simon hits Dad with, he's like, I don't want to get ready, but alright, fine, I'll do it, Dad. Hey, you want to hear a joke real quick? Sure, what's that? Why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. Kid thinks he's a real fucking wisecracker.
I mean, I'm here for that. That was a good one.
But Dad's like, where'd you hear that joke?
Yeah.
Because he's like, now super paranoid.
Yeah.
He's like, the only person I've ever heard tell me that joke was the Joker.
Yeah, that's a Joker joke. So the kid starts to go down to the basement, and the dad grabs his arm very forcefully. He says, what are you doing? And Simon's like, well, my shoes are downstairs. And Ben says, you never go down there. You understand? Never. Just promise me you will never go down there. Promise me, Simon. Simon says, I promise. And he says, good boy. You're a good boy. And Dad realizes he lost his cool. He's like, I'm sorry. It's just my office is down there.
I got a lot of bad stuff down there I don't want you to see.
And that leads us to wonder,
what's in the basement?
What's in the basement? What's in the basement, Ben? What's in the box? What's in the basement, Ben? So he drives to work, and he's he gets to security, and he's like, hey, Doc, what do you know, Joe? Not much, or I wouldn't be stuck working here. Yeah, if you're working at Arkham, you may be on the lower end. We get another Two-Face cameo, because he was also in the diner.
I do love that as he's heading into Arkham, and they show the opening shot of Arkham Asylum, he repeats the phrase, there are two worlds. And this place, referencing Arkham, this place sits at the borderline between them. Mm-hmm. Which is true.
A great description,
It's literally where the sane and the insane have to fucking collaborate.
And it's where the world of the insane meshes with the world of the sane. I like this little scene with Harvey. I wish they had like 4 more of them. I wish he had walked by a lot of other cells, because this was great. Morning, Doc. Good evening, Harvey. Sleep well? Not really. I was up half the night.
I also really like Harvey's the artistic style they did with Harvey in this. Like the little close up you see of him. I really like that style choice.
He's got a good face. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I really enjoyed the character design. I was like, that's a newer style take of Two-Face than I've seen before.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. Also, I appreciate the fucking bad humor that they gave him. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Giving them a little grief. Because what else can you do? You're in a cell all day.
And, of course, after his interaction with Two-Face, we get a giant 4-panel spread of Joker's grin. as he sees Doc Ben coming up the hallway.
Oh, it makes his day. He loves this time he gets to spend with Ben.
And once again, Ben says, all right, I really want to talk about your beginning origins today.
Yeah.
And he just won't let it go. He's like, all right, you want the truth? Trust me, Benji, you don't want the truth. Not yet, anyway. Stories are so much better. They make sense of things. They comfort us. Do these lies comfort you? What is it that you're hiding from, Joker? What scares you? He's really trying hard with that psychology.
Yeah.
Like, drilling into the basic 101 psychology of, like, I'm going to weasel my way in to get you to open up to me. Like, that's not been tried a million times on him.
Yeah. Joker's like, well, showering with Croc's a bit of a dicey proposition, but otherwise not much done. And he's basically, again, Ben's like, I want to help you get better. And Joker says, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you, Benjamin. It's just that, well, you don't really think I'm the sick one, do you? Look around. Look where you are. He's like, nice try. Let's try something else. How about the first time you met him? And Joker is coy as fuck.
He's like, do you mean?
You know. Joker, you. See, that's when I would have jumped up and hit him. I would have been like, you know who I'm talking about, you little shit.
Well, I love this part where he's like, oh, you mean him. Well, don't tell Harley, but truly, he is truly my soulmate.
Yeah, a little bit of that Joker Batman shipping, but he immediately shuts it down. He's like, but that's boring. I don't want to talk about it.
Let's talk about your soulmate, Ben.
Yeah. Tell me about the first time you banged your wife. No. Yeah. It'll keep me warm at night. And then he mentioned Simon.
He's like, wait, how the fuck do you know their names?
Now, here's an interesting thing. Because he's like, how'd you know their names? Joker's laughing, and you have a picture of his hands, like, right near Joker's face. And you assume through the glass, like, obviously. But they come running in and grab him and pull him out. And she says, Ben, you cannot make physical contact with the patients. So, I think he actually went in there and attacked the Joker.
Yeah.
And of course, obviously, his doctor's like, his boss is like, come on, Ben. You can't do that. And also, how did you not think the Joker was going to try and get under your skin? That's kind of his thing.
Yeah, he's like, the things he said, they really got me. It really got me, and I know I'm just tired. I'm getting nowhere with him, and I really thought I could do this, but I just need more time. 3 weeks isn't a lot for a case as extreme as him's.
She says 3 weeks, very confused. And he's like, it's going to take months, years even. And she says, Ben, it's already been...
And then they get cut off.
Yeah, because Clayface is stuck in the pipes.
I love it.
Sounds like a failed escape attempt by old Clayface.
Yeah, he got stuck in the shitty pipes.
That's very funny. But, that's a wild...
So he thinks it's only been 3 weeks.
Naming the kid... I don't know. Ben is not cut out for this.
No.
If naming it, how did you know? It's like, come on.
Or you could have easily paid anybody.
Easy. Yeah.
Like you gotta, like, it's Arkham. You think it's not like a real jail where they couldn't just get information easily from a fucking Weasley guard? Come on now.
Yeah. Then they get a little marching scene with Joker and Croc talking to each other. Joker tells that joke. If you had not heard Joker tell that joke before, you get an ear. And Croc,
I've heard that one a million times. If you finish that punchline, I eat your fucking head. Then we'll see who tastes funny.
Yeah, tough crowd.
All right, so when Ben was talking to Joker and Joker name dropped Anna and Simon.
Yeah.
Visually on the panel, the background behind Ben starts getting a bleeding red charge. And when he gets angry, it goes full red.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that same red blending with the gray sky is happening when he's at home having dinner again.
Yeah, Arkham is seeping out of the building and into the rest of his life.
Yeah, artistic visual cues.
Yeah.
Those artistic visual cues are really nice.
Yeah. And he's saying, and when I come home, I leave it behind. I cannot allow it to bleed over. Bleed. I cannot allow the other world to touch this one. I cannot. And he looks up. He's having dinner with the wife.
Hey, Simon, can you pass the salt?
Yeah, he looks up and his family is dead and Jokerized for a second. And then it just cuts back to them and they're like, you okay, Dad?
And again, when you see Ben, he is encompassed fully in a red filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes back to his family being normal and alive. They're like, dude, are you all right?
And then it cuts back to him, filter gone. Although, outside the window of the house is the crazy pushing against the glass, trying to get in.
And he decides, I'm going to go down to my office for a bit.
And she's like, are you sure that's a good idea? So his wife has noticed he's spending way too much time in the office.
And the red filter returns.
Yeah, I think it is. I think I need to. And then he starts walking down the stairs.
And we get this really awesome full-page, 2-page spread of panel shots.
Yeah.
Each panel of Ben walking down the stairs is completely red. The madness is there.
Yeah.
Then you see all these mini panels overlapping that show like pictures of his wife, his son, moments of him leaving Arkham.
His hallucinating that he did earlier, like his wife is a Joker, the dead body in the toilet. Like.
And some of them are blended with green Joker gas and blood red.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the mixture of like, I wonder how Joker could have poisoned him.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the Joker gas is playing a factor in there.
Yeah. Ben, where are you going? I have to go back to the city. There's something I need to know. So the whole time he's walking down the stairs, he's trying to figure out how Joker figured out his wife and kid's name. And he's like, I'm going to go back and ask him. Like, that's fucking... That's crazy. Me and Cecilia did some Superman comics. And we talked about... There's a scene where Joker has poisoned Lois Lane and Batman's got him. And he's like, if I punch you hard enough for long enough, you'll give me the antidote. And Joker's like, you really believe that? He's like, no, and throws him down. This is kind of the same thing. Like, oh yeah, just go ask him. He'll tell you where he got that info for sure.
And this weird aspect of it, of when he's trying to leave, his son says,
it's better this way.
No, don't. It's better this way.
And that's a very strange thing for a son trying to get his father to stay. It's one of those like, that's a what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like, huh? What's better this way? What's going on?
It kind of, as he's going in, he has to sort of finagle his way past security. It's showing that like he's not supposed to be here after hours, but he's letting himself in with some. Oh, I'm just catching up on a little paperwork.
Be careful, Doc. Mind yourself, Harvey. Well, I'm of two minds, Doc.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Harvey's trying to warn him.
And once again, we have the Joker saying the word sublime for like the 5th time.
Yeah.
Says, I was having the most sublime dream, Benji. This better be good.
Yeah. And then he's like, where'd you get their names from? I never told you. And this is where the breakdown comes because Joker's like, are you sure? We've talked so much. He's like, no, I know in these 3 weeks I haven't told you. Joker's like, now we're getting somewhere. 3 weeks, you say? Benji, dear, you've been treating me for 3 years. And that's the mic drop section of this entire thing. Like, he screams no, he's pounding on the glass. And Joker's like, he's doing a Darth Vader. He's like, search your heart. You know it to be true. I'm actually your father, Ben.
And he's like, and you know it's true because guess what? You told me months ago. You told me right after Anna left you and took your son with her.
Yeah, because obviously you let work get a little crazy. And then we get flashbacks to things that he did. And he's still saying his lines, but he's alone in the house now.
Yep.
So he's reading to no one. He's talking to his wife, but she's not in the room anymore. And
having dinner by himself when he thinks he's seen his dead family.
And so the blades and teeth of Mr. Smile's happy machine began to spin and spin. His mind is very much in the chainsaw blade now. So yeah, this is where I'm questioning how much of this Mr. Smiles thing, like on the app, if that even really happened, because I think his kids were already gone by the time he's imagining the app. The book is real because he has it even after everything else is gone. And
after this revelation, though, Ben decides to run out, and all you get is Harvey saying, "Told you so."
Yep, Harvey trying to be the good guy here.
Ben gets home and he realizes, oh shit, my house really is empty. There's no Anna, there's no Simon. The only thing there is this book sitting on my child's bed.
There are two worlds, but what happens when you no longer know which one you're in? And then he's just staring at that mysterious book. That, let's be honest, we're still not 100% sure where that came from.
Yeah.
I assume Joker gave it to him, and he brought it home. And I also assume his son was already gone when he did.
Knock, knock.
And we finally get to see what's in the basement, and
Who's
it's a
there?
makeup chair.
Boo. Boo-hoo. No need to cry. It's only a joke.
He opens the door, and it's just a set of makeup for face painting and a mirror. And he straight up paints himself up with his own version of the Joker face. He's doing blue around the eyes.
Fun fact: the paint style he did is the
serial killer of who?
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I was gonna say it's the paint that was used for the Cesar Romero Joker mask when he debuted in Batman, Adventures of Batman with Adam West. That mask is the same mask that Heath Ledger used. That's that same painting style.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so that's a fun little trivia fact. Is that it's canon. It's an homage to the very first time Joker showed up wearing a clown mask.
Only a joke. Yeah. And the last thing is him laughing maniacally while covered in face makeup. Then we have a little picture of Mr. Smiles with blood, and this is also in the kind of 3D effect look. And we go into book 3. So this story is 3 books. And then there's something called Batman the Smile Killer, which is a little extra after.
It's like an epilogue.
Yeah, like an epilogue. And so we're going into the home stretch of our main tale, and we have another visit to Happyville.
Happy Bill was sound asleep, all except one. Mr. Smiles was restless, and try as he might, he just could not sleep. You see, Mr. Smiles was trapped in the magic castle, and he could not leave.
Yeah, welcome to Arkham, buddy.
And there was only one person who could help Mr. Smiles. Whether he knew it or not, he was the only one with the key. And while this is happening, you see Ben return back to the asylum and knock his fucking buddy out.
Yeah, the nice security guard he's been exchanging pleasantries with gets a crowbar to the head and an "I'm sorry, Joe." So, hey, at least he apologizes for clubbing him with a tire iron.
And when Ben confronts Joker, he fucking bashes his mouth in with a crowbar as well and, accuses him. He's like, "What'd you do? What in the hell did you do?"
Yeah.
"I didn't do this, Ben. They did."
Yeah. I'm not the one to blame here. I'm the one you should be thanking.
Thanking? You really are insane. Yeah, no shit. Yeah. But now you are too. And you see what it's like to have the mask taken off.
Madness is a doorway to true freedom, and now I give you the key. All we have to do is walk through together.
Ben begins to break down into tears, and in a very weird sense of, I've never seen this version of the Joker show any type of caring empathy.
Yeah.
He consoles Ben.
Yeah.
If it's fake, whatever. Again, I've never even seen him fake this kind of shit.
Yeah. He's consoling him and also redirecting, because he's saying, "It's me, I lost everything." And Joker's saying, "She took your son. She left you. She could not accept who you really are, Ben. That's why I'm here.
And I'll never leave."
And the last scene is of Ben just crying and Joker patting his head and patting his back and holding him.
It's okay.
Yeah. And you could argue that this is just Joker using him to escape. But yeah, it looks like genuine caring. I think there is a part of this Joker, at least, that really believes that making everyone crazy is the way to bliss. Like, madness is bliss. You can see the world as it really is. You can do everything without worrying about what anyone thinks. You can get revenge on people that have wronged you without any guilt. And I think Joker really is trying to spread this doctrine to make people better. I think there might be some genuine truth to what he said at the beginning, where he's like, if people are laughing, they're happy. I'm just trying to make people happy, trying to make people smile.
Which is, he just
and
goes
madness
in a
is the
violent, psychotic
madness
way.
is the one way to do it, and Joker gas is the other. So I don't have the time to make everyone crazy. I've worked with Ben for 3 years to do it. Some people I just have to gas them. But
and Ben tries to push back. You know, he's like, no, you broke me. Joker once again redirects the anger. He's like, no, they broke us. The world did this.
Yeah.
Like,
so let's break it right back.
It's us against them mentality. You know, like they turned their backs on us. We were people, and we were betrayed. And so guess what? Now they have to deal with the repercussions of what they made.
Yep. And Joker gives him the very good idea of, if we want to escape, let's let everybody out. Hell, let's embrace socialism. Let's all do together. We'll all escape. It's all or nothing. He opens all the doors, and of course,
the alarms are sounding.
Yeah, it's riot time. We love a good riot. And then Joker hands him a gun and an address. And yeah.
I love the visual of when the security guards are coming down the hall in the red lit hallway when the alarms are going off. You know, they have their guns drawn and all the doors open. Literally, you see that Ben has opened every single cell door. And one of these security guards is unfortunate enough to come across Killer Croc, who just grabs him and you know is about to murder this man violently. And all the security guard can say is, shit.
This might be the origin of, who's the dude who got his hand eaten and ends up with a hook?
Captain Hook?
No, he's one of the security guards.
Rick Flag?
No, he was in the Arkham games.
Oh, I don't...
Aaron Cash. That was his name.
Okay.
So Aaron Cash is a security guard who only has one hand because Croc ate the other one. And Croc's always joking about, I'm going to get the rest. And it is obviously a Peter Pan reference to Captain Hook. But Aaron Cash is the... that might be the Aaron Cash origin story in this universe. But yeah, the riot goes... It's the party is a huge success, according to Joker, which I'm a big fan of. But then a cop is trying to stop them, and then we get our Ben's kind of moment where he's holding the gun, and he has to make the decision. And sure enough, he shoots the cop.
Well, not only that, dude, he killed the guy that he had knocked out earlier. It's the same guy from the gate, the security guard.
Yeah, it's the security guard at the gate.
He killed his friend.
Yeah, who he apologized to early. No apology this time. And we get another one of those great where it's the onomatopoeia. We have blam, and we have the shot happening within the letters, much like the punch from earlier.
The bullet exiting out of the back of the cop, and him lying on the ground, and Joker's just like bang. And Ben starts laughing.
They both laugh together. Yeah. It's kind of the end of the Killing Joke where Batman and Joker are holding each other and laughing. These two are just having a damn ball.
But from the book of Mr. Smiles, once he was free of the Magic Castle, Mr. Smiles decided to throw a party for his new pal, the Sad Doctor, and all of his friends were invited too. The Crocodile Man came, and so did the Scarecrow, and even the Man with Two Faces. They all hacked and slashed and gouged, and the party was a big success. But some people wanted to ruin the party. They wanted to ruin all the fun. And the Sad Doctor knew what he had to do. While this is all being said, there is this awesome montage of all the Arkham inmates killing and fighting with a bunch of security guards. You got Professor Pig using a garrote to choke out a security guard. You got Two-Face shanking another prisoner.
Yeah, with a big old smile on his face.
Yeah, Victor Zsasz choking a guy out.
Yeah.
You got
poor Hugo Strange is getting ready to get clubbed. He's not doing so hot. Not everyone's winning.
It's pretty funny, but it's a nice, once again, visual of all the inmates.
And I also like the Joker calls them his friends. I like it better when the Arkham guys get along than when they're fucking at each other. When they're like, look, we all have the same goal, making Batman miserable. Why can't we be pals? I like it better when they're all hanging out and being friendly to each other.
Mr. Smiles took the Sad Doctor's hand and led him to the greatest place in all of Happyville. It was a magical place filled with toys and games and laughter. The Sad Doctor needed laughter most of all. It had been so long since he'd laughed, so long since he'd felt much of anything at all. But Mr. Smiles knew how to fix everything. He knew just what to do to make the Sad Doctor happy again.
Yep. And during this, you're seeing Ben's family leaving. First, you're seeing him draw Mr. Smiley, and then you're seeing his family leaving, kind of showing that his obsession with the Joker, as if we didn't already know, is what drove them away.
And Joker takes him to this abandoned movie studio where he had secret
all his
weapons
supplies
and costumes.
Most importantly, a suit.
Yeah.
You gotta get back in the purple. And he's like, now we can play. We got all our clothes. And he's like, Anna, Simon. He's like, all in good time, Doctor. But first we have a guest to entertain. Guess who? The Batman has finally made his second appearance in this comic. He has not shown up since we saw him punch Joker way back.
At panel, 3?
Yeah, panel 3, right at the beginning. And sure enough, Joker says it's time for another story. And now we're going to talk about Mr. Pouts, which is a great name for Batman.
A very bad man. A man who wanted to ruin everything in Happyville. The bad man's name was Mr. Pouts, and all Mr. Pouts ever wanted to do was make the laughter stop.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you have this literally like cartoon bat style, like bat face drawn man that's tackling a clown puppet.
It's very funny. And Joker and Batman, of course, are having their fight. Joker throws some gas in his face. And it's very funny. He says, it's just, what have I told you about sulking around like this? It's just no fun for anyone. And he punches him.
And breaks his hand.
And he breaks his hand, which very much reminds me of, I don't know if you remember the scene from Batman Forever when Riddler and Two-Face are there. And Riddler's like, show me how to punch a guy. And Two-Face punches him, and then Riddler punches the guy. He's like, ah! Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
So sure enough, Batman takes care of the Joker. But Joker, you could say kindly, tells Ben to get the hell out and finish the job. Like, Ben, you know what you need to do. So Ben runs. He's heading to visit Anne and Simon.
But it's
Gotta
all
see the family.
a beautiful ploy because the Joker is just using it as a distraction.
Yep.
Batman says, answer me, what have you done to that man? Oh, this is a good one. A long-term project of mine. Right now, the good doctor's on his way to his dear, sweet, estranged wife and son. Now, the choice is yours, Bats. You can have me, or you can save them.
Yeah. Which seemed like an unfair choice to me. I'm like, you know what? You could punch the Joker one more time, knock him out, call the police to come pick him up, and still go get the guy. But Batman is, and he flies
so he
immediately out the room to go and try and save this guy from himself.
He warns Joker, he says, I'll find you, and Joker says, oh, I know you will, Mr. Pouts, and when you do, I'll be ready.
Yeah, last scenes of him laying there. One of those, did he win? He's laying on his back, covered in blood from where Batman's punched him multiple times, just laughing up a storm.
It kind of reminds me of when fucking Jack Nicholson got the shit beat out of him by Michael Keaton Batman. He's just laying there like, alright, you did hit a guy with glasses. Okay, alright.
Yeah. So then we cut to Ben. He's now got a clown nose and a mask on. This also looks similar to the mask that the people were wearing at the beginning of the Dark Knight. And he is sneaking into the apartment of his wife and child. And his wife finds him, and oh man, this is not a good reunion. You are in the threshold now. Walk with me, Benjamin. This is the voice of Joker in his head. Let's make them all pay. And she's saying, this isn't you. And he says, this is what I am. This is what I've always been. Please don't do this. And
he's about to old yell her ass.
Yeah,
he's like, close your eyes. Cocks the gun back.
But then the son walks in. And I thought there were only two worlds. There was a world I once thought I lived in. The place where everything worked and made sense. The happy place. But Joker showed me that was a mask, a lie. He made me see the happy place was never really meant for me. He showed me who I really was. And now I really see. And the son's got fucking clown makeup too. And he's like, Dad, take me with you. And I'm like, oh my God, Joker got to the kid too.
And visually, like when he's having this moment of contemplation, realizing, you see the one panel where he's giving that monologue and it shows the red side of him, the humanity.
Yeah.
That's just encompassed by the madness. And then you see half of his face is wrapped up in the mask and the crazy Jokerized version of his family that he thought was dead and all the craziness that is in his head. And it's the duality of him splitting. Then, after he sees his son, you see him drowning in the red. Yeah. Which is, you know...
horrifying to look at, honestly. There's a beautiful shot of him just like on his knees, back arched, with nothing around him. It's just him, completely red, screaming into the sky. And he says the one thing they can't take away, hope. And that's what I grasp for in the dark now. I won't let him take that too. That's what I'll hold on to no matter what. So he was willing to take this life for himself, but he was not willing to give it to his son. Yeah. He's like, my son needs a better life.
You know what's really fucked up? You see Batman pop up behind him while he's hugging his son. Batman just raises a fist, and next thing you see is like a little bit of blood splatter from Batman knocking this man senseless.
Yeah. Because he didn't know. He wasn't sure if he was getting ready to kill his kid or not. And I get that.
Fuck you, Batman!
Because Joker messes you up in fun ways.
Yeah, but still, he's coward-ass sucker punch.
Yeah. So now he is on the other side of the glass talking to his former boss about his time. And he's like, I let Joker win. And she's like, you know what? You didn't. Because, you didn't kill your wife. And you're trying to get a better life for your kid. And he's like, Joker's a disease, Ben. Everything he touches is corrupted. But don't you see? he didn't get you. He didn't win. You did. And then she goes, hey, I got one for you. He's like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah, why is Two-Face the best villain in Arkham? I don't know why. Because he's not half bad.
God damn the dad humor.
Well, it's funny, too, because, like, the same kind of jokes that Joker uses, they also use to get through the day, but from a much healthier place. And he's like, there's still one problem. Joker's still out there somewhere. And sure enough, our last shot is of Joker giving a green balloon to a small child. And so our story finally comes to its end. The sad doctor found himself where he was meant to be all along in the magic castle. While Mr. Pout stalked the shadows once more, which of course was where he belonged too. And Mr. Smiles was free to spread joy and mirth. And they all lived happily ever after, the end. And the last picture is of him back in the Happy Village with balloons everywhere, and now all the villagers are happy to see him. And I think this is kind of like, once he puts the Joker gas on someone, they're happy to see him. Because now they have a smile on their face.
They have no choice.
Yeah. And thus ends Batman Book 3 of Killer Smile. But we are not yet finished because we have a very strange little after story called Batman the Smile Killer. And this scared me more than anything before it.
Yeah, this was a very interesting epilogue choice. And so we start with a young Bruce Wayne turning on the television, and he cuts on a TV show, The Mr. Smiles Playhouse.
Yes, and we know Mr. Smiles. And it's funny, when do we find out it's Bruce Wayne?
Right at the very end.
Bruce, yeah.
When he calls him Brucey.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Bruce Wayne. And then my mind was like, wait, what the fuck?
So this, right off the bat, I was like, okay, something's not right here. Something had to happen in between the fight with Joker and this next panel. So I'm thinking, oh, this has got to be a fucking trigger of that Joker gas he got to the face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this has got to be some crazy delusion.
Yeah.
Where he's like...
This whole thing might just be from when he got gassed in the last issue. We don't really know. But
it's like Scarecrow's toxin mixed with Joker gas.
Yeah. So we cut to Batman, as Batman, not as little Bruce Wayne in front of the TV. And he's swinging into a place that was thought to be like Joker's last hangout. And it's a butcher shop in which Joker has set up a display case of humans in the butcher shop with scary faces, Joker faces. He's also got the butcher on a butcher hook behind the... And again, super creepy. And we get a Batman guilt trip where Gordon tries to tell him this isn't your fault. And he's like, it is my fault. Anytime he kills, it's on me for some fucking reason. And then this is where things get super weird. He finds a bag
that has a bat face drawn on it.
Yeah, and Gordon's like, what is that? And he's like, something I made. And Gordon's like, what do you mean you made it? And he said, it's Mr. Pout's. And then we cut back to him as a child in the TV show. And like a lot of those kid TV shows, they're doing an arts and crafts project. And he's like, oh, get a bag and draw a face on the bag. And But he's also talking about... Joker's talking, as he did in the previous 3 stories, about our mask and how we can hide who we really are. And just look deep inside. Imagine that you're looking in a mirror and draw your deepest, most secret self. See, it's easy. Now let's see what your imaginary friend looks like.
Bruce drew a bat face.
Yeah, and it's a sad face. And Joker's a little upset about that. We will also note that Joker is wearing the Hawaiian shirt he wore when he shot Barbara Gordon in this. Mr. Smiles says, you've been a bad boy.
I'm afraid you're going to need to be punished for this.
Bad boys need to learn their lessons.
I'm sorry.
So he's telling him to pick up the scissors and put them towards your eye. And he's like, it'll hurt at first, but afterwards, I promise you, it will feel so much better. And Bruce's mother walks in and stops him from putting his scissors through his eyeball and slaps the taste right out of his mouth, which is what I'm not for hitting kids, but man, if I caught my child getting ready to stab out their eye with scissors, I might make an exception.
Yeah, I might smack.
I might just. I'd feel bad about it later, but I would be very scared. And it's like, but why? Why would you do that? Mr. Smiles told me to. What? Who is Mr. Smiles? And he points to the TV, which I'm assuming is off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming that there is no Mr. Smiles show.
He lives in
his
there.
heads. Yeah. So meanwhile, Batman and Joker are having a nice little fight. Joker gives him a nice stab with scissors. Hey, call back.
Alright, he stabs him in the back with some scissors.
Yep. And starts saying things just like the Mr. Smiley
You've been a bad boy,
Yep.
and bad boys need to learn their lessons. And I love this next visual because this is where I'm like, okay, I think the Joker gas is kicking in hard.
Yeah, you see green mist around all the panels here.
And as Bruce is, as Batman is losing his mind saying, enough, you ruined my smile. Not nice. It just keeps getting worse. Like, the room starts swirling and spinning, and all of a sudden you see Dr. Ben.
Yep.
And Ben's like...
Bruce?
Batman's like, where are you? What is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
Ben's like, Bruce, what's wrong with you? And next thing you know, you start seeing Batman devolve into an inmate. To
Yep.
from wearing the cape and cowl to wearing a orange jumpsuit, and he is just Bruce Wayne now.
Yep. Him and Dr. Ben are sharing a glass wall. They're in cells next to each other. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, starts immediately thinking, like, they think they have me this time. They think they finally beaten me, but they haven't. I see them. I see what this is. So he doubts all of this. And he's asking Ben to collaborate his to confirm his story that
Yeah, he says, you need to think, Arnell. Joker had you. You were about to hurt your family, your wife and son, but I found you and then you stopped. You need to remember. Oh, of course I remember. You do? Of course. But that was 3 years ago, Bruce, and you weren't there. I didn't meet you until I became a patient here.
And Bruce says, no, that's not. Look, there's something I need to tell you. There's just no other way, and I need you to understand. And he's like, I'm Batman. He's like, yeah, I know that.
I know, dude.
I know you think you're Batman, who is not a real person, and that's neat. But
And then, of course, they got Bruce sounding like a crazy conspiracy nutbag. He's like, that's just what they are trying to make us think.
So the cops
This
come in
is a trap,
and
an
club
elaborate
him,
scheme.
which is how apparently people at Arkham handle unruly patients when they start freaking out in their cells. Little clubbing will fix them. And he's like, hey, I need to go talk to Gordon. And they're like, oh, we'll take you to see Dr. Gordon. And he's like,
doctor?
no, he's the commissioner.
Head
and then
of
you see
child
his
psychology.
Yeah, you see his plaque. He's a child psychiatrist. And apparently Bruce has been seeing him for years. Ever since he started watching this Mr. Smiles show. And,
Every day after school, 4 o'clock on Channel 7, and he tells you to do things, this puppet. Sometimes he tells me stories. Sometimes he shows me how to do crafts. Stories. What kind of stories, Bruce? Bad ones.
Yeah.
What makes them bad?
He says bad words and tells me how to hurt people. And then we cut to modern times where Bruce is still in therapy for this same problem.
Hurt people? What people hurt?
And he's trying to get Gordon to understand, like, look, Gordon, this is obviously a Joker ploy. Like, he's trying to make me think I'm crazy. And Gordon's like, okay, drastic measure time. This helps, usually. And, woo! Opens the door, and Bruce's mother's behind it. And Bruce cannot be Batman if his mother's still alive. So this melts his brain right out.
And she tries to explain, like, no, honey, I didn't die that night. Your father died.
Because you shot him.
You were dressed as the fucking Joker.
Yeah, he told me. He told me to do it. And poor Batman is like... Now he's back in his cell, and it's dark. And he's having little flashbacks of his life as it actually happened. I know the truth. I can never waver from my mission. I am the Batman. The thing about that, not doubting, never doubting, that's good if you're sane. If you're crazy, that's a problem. It's interesting that Batman, this works for Batman because it turns out he's right. But this is the same way the Mad Hatter thinks. This is the same way the Riddler thinks. This is the same way fucking Harley Quinn thinks.
I mean, he literally doubles down by saying, I have always been the Batman. I will always be the Batman. No matter what clothes I wear, no matter what they do to my mind, no matter what lies they tell me.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I need a sign. I need something. It's so convincing, but I need some type of sign to prove to me that I'm still here. I'm on the right path.
And he asks Ben, and Ben holds up the Mr. Pout's bag, which he should not have. There's no reason that he would have that. And Bruce is like, that's all I need. So raise some ruckus, get the cops to come in to discipline me,
and he breaks out.
Do that Batman ass whooping. Yeah, now that he is fully convinced he's Batman, he can once again fight like Batman, and he owns these guys and breaks through the glass, and he is free. And he's like, give me a sign. I've never felt so lost. Not since the night I lost them. Give me a sign. Just give me some sign and I'll know. And then the bat signal flops up and he's like, all right, I know what I am. Now where to begin?
And we get a little bit of a cliffhanger, not knowing where this next part of the story goes for him.
Yeah. He escaped from whatever that weird psychological prison is. Maybe Gordon was Clayface. Maybe none of this is real. We do not know. But
well, I remember the last thing at Arkham was the inmates taking over the asylum once again, so it's not past the realm of possibility.
That he was in the asylum being ran by the inmates.
Yeah.
Then we get some variant covers, which I'm always a fan of. My favorite is the diner one where Joker's got some smiley face breakfast and all the villains are around him.
I like the one where he's just riding on the tiny bike.
Yeah, he's got a little tiny bike to ride on. And then we got a nice picture of Happy Town, and you get all these symbols. A little poison ivy plant, little Riddler question mark, little Harley Quinn hat, Mr. Freeze, some penguins. So all the Arkham villains are happy in the Happy Castle, which is I like the picture of the Happy Castle too. And then we get a little bit of design art, and thus ends our adventures in the Happy Village with Joker Killer Smile.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. It was a nice little one-shot standoff, not too heavy of a Batman story involving the Joker.
Yeah, I figured if we're doing Joker, let's do Joker.
That's a common thing. Is a lot of these Joker stories heavily rely on the fact that like Batman has to be involved.
The yin to the yang. Can't gotta have both.
Yeah,
according to some.
So it was nice that it was mostly up until the last little bit a standalone Joker feature.
Oh yeah. I definitely agree, and I'm really glad that we read it, and I'm glad that we finally got around to covering the Clown Prince of Crime. You know, I was thinking, Joker's the Clown Prince of Crime, Riddler's the Prince of Keen-Witted Conundrums. Why are these people all princes? There's a self-esteem issue there. Like, no one wants to be a king? Like, everybody's a prince?
I think vernacular-wise, it rolls off the tongue better.
Oh, it sounds good. But you could be the king of keen-witted conundrums. You could be the king of crime.
The clown king of crime doesn't sound as... just garbage-wise, doesn't sound as, like, flowy. Maybe that's what it is.
It's maybe. But yes, I'm glad we covered the Joker, and I'm glad we covered Joker Killer Smile. My hats off to Jeff, Andrea, and Jordy, who I'm now on a first-name basis with. You done good work. And if you did not get Joker Killer Smile, which is very possible, considering how you didn't have any warning that this was coming, you can pick it up at Ollie's for $6.99. That's where I got my copies. So, as always, support your local anywhere that sells comics. And until next time, do you have any Joker parting shots for us, Gorship? Before we poof back into the night of the alleyways of Gotham City.
If you want another good Joker arc, we'll go back to Batman White Knight, just because that is a good highlight of Joker not quite being the villain of the story.
Yeah, Batman White Knight's good, and I will also to recommend a Joker tale. Big fan of Emperor Joker. Which I gave to Gorship to read, a nice storyline where Joker gets the power of Mr. Mizzleplix and starts fucking with Batman and Superman in equal measure and just ruins everyone's life. He takes over the world with imp power. You know how that works. Or you don't, because you haven't read it yet.
It's a great story, but it goes back to highlighting the insane, like, monstrous nature of the Joker.
Yeah.
In a more kid-friendly fucking medium, which is insane.
Yeah. It's a wild adventure, but I do recommend it.
It's literally drawn in the style of Superman and Batman: The Animated Adventures, but it's a very dark story when you read it.
Yeah, it's super dark. Which, I'm a dark guy. Those are my dark types. But yes, I hope everyone had a wonderful time with Joker Killer Smile, and know that in 2 weeks, Comic Dissection will be back to our normally scheduled programs. In the show notes, I will show you what you're supposed to be reading next, and you, like good little lemmings, will go and do... I'm sorry. I'm fine.
That was aggressive.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm feeling a little crazy right now. I just need to calm down and take my medicines. Until next time, for Gorship, this is Reno Dino Valentino. We will catch you again. As always, all that crap, Patreons, likes. Check the show notes for information and follow. See you next time.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.